Undead Nightmare is one of those games that I think about every year when Halloween comes around. It's that perfect mix of horror, atmosphere, and old school adventure that just hits different. I remember starting it up for the first time and realizing how strange and brilliant the idea was of taking a western, the stock world of outlaws and gunslingers, and turning it into a horror movie. On paper, it sounds ridiculous, but when you actually play it, you realize that there was a massive hole in your life that needed to be filled with games like this.
What was that?
The first thing that always stands out to me is the atmosphere. Undead Nightmare is special because it's as over the top as possible. The whole game has been turned into a 60s and 70s inspired zombie horror adventure, and you can feel that everywhere. It's extremely stylized, with the map, menu, and world looking like a George Romero or a John Carpenter horror movie. The sky has this strange yellow tone. The air feels heavy, like the whole world is rotting away. You ride into towns that used to feel alive, and now they're crawling with the undead. It's twisted to the max, but that's what I love about it. It takes something you know and makes it feel off.
I ain't gonna bite you! Come and join me? Come on, mister. You can sit a while. I ain't seen a living man in quite some time. Yep, a little bit of whiskey to soak it in, and I reckon this'll be good eating. It all started just after the plague hit town, you know. My brother comes home shot up real bad. Says he don't want them red-eyed demons to get his immortal soul. He said he wanted me to do it, you know, to kill him. I just put the pillow over his face. But the thing is, you see, I was real hungry. I couldn't exactly go outside the store, so I cooked him up in a stew and I ate him. He tasted damn good.
I think what makes it the perfect Halloween game is how it plays with its tone. It's creepy but also fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. There's this campy, grindhouse edge to it, like an old VHS tape you'd find in the B-movie horror section at the video store.
Once you wake up the dead, you've got a real mess on your hands.
It's creepy and atmospheric, but it never forgets to let you enjoy yourself. You've got this mix of eerie silence and over-the-top action, riding through the night on an undead horse, shotgun in hand, blasting through hordes of zombies.
Hello, boys. Marshall sent me and needs some help. Guess you got other plans. Seriously, enjoy your meal, no problem. Easy now, gentlemen. Remember all the fun times we had? You never did have a brain between you.
See this? This is my boomstick!
Done with this world.
I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul!
Swallow this.
What I've always loved about Undead Nightmare is how it manages to be both a parody and a genuine piece of horror at the same time. It's aware of the genre cliches, but it still commits to the horror atmosphere. The lighting, fog, or the haunting music, all of it works together to create this eerie cinematic feel. It's got that late night movie energy, the kind you'd watch with the lights off while the wind hits your window.
Why, hello there. Come on, join us. They don't... There is nothing more important than family. I'm sure you agree.
John Marston is another reason the story works so well. He's the kind of character that keeps the whole thing grounded. No matter how absurd the situation gets, and it gets pretty wild, he reacts the way a real person would. He's just a tired man trying to make sense of this madness and find a cure for his family. His dry humor cuts through the darkness, but there's still this underlying sadness to all of it. You can tell he's a man who's seen too much already, and now the world's asking even more of him.
What I would like is for you to stop peddling this nonsense right now. 100 gold coins?
Well, what price would you pay for survival?
You tell me, Mr. West Dickens. You tell me. Drew, are you in here? I've got to put you out of your misery, Drew.
Well, John, you always do bring sunshine to my life.
I'm sorry about your father.
Oh, you bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
He's annoyed as hell at this point, and honestly, it does make me wonder how Arthur Morgan would have reacted to this situation, which sadly we'll never know since Rockstar decided to never release Undead Nightmare 2. I also think the game deserves credit for how well it fits into the world of Red Dead Redemption. It doesn't feel like some random spin-off or forced cash grab. The horror feels natural, like it's always been hiding in the corners of that dusty world. The original game was already about death, decay, and the end of the old ways. Undead Nightmare just makes that literal. The West is dying and now it's actually dead. Plus, let's be honest, Rockstar games ever since San Andreas all had some pretty creepy and wild things going on. UFOs, Bigfoot, and loads of mysteries that turned into a genre of its own. Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 are no strangers to this at all. Red Dead 2 especially has some really weird mysteries and locations, which is why it's not a stretch at all to include actual supernatural occurrences such as zombie breakouts.
No! Oh, no, no! You can't eat me! I'm Herbert!
To me, Undead Nightmare captures what Halloween is supposed to feel like. It's about stepping into another world for a while, one that's dangerous and strange, but also thrilling. It's spooky, sure, but it's also full of atmosphere. It's got that perfect mix of horror and over-the-top action. The kind of game you want to play when the lights are low, the air is cold, and you're in the mood for something that feels like a lost, low-budget VHS classic from the 80s. The kind that mixes cowboys, monsters, and a sense of the world falling apart.
Sorry, boys. She didn't give me a whole lot of choice.
They didn't know him when he drifted into town. Now they'll never forget him. Who are you?
Red Dead Redemption 2 might be all about outlaws and long horse rides across the plains, but every time I go back to it, I remember how unnerving the world can get when you're wandering off the beaten path. There's this weird strangeness buried in the map, like Rockstar hid a whole other genre under the cowboy hats and campfires.
And you know what? They got caught in bad weather in the mountains and died. Every single one. Even started eating each other.
What makes it so interesting is how naturally those moments show up. There's no giant marker or scripted warning. The world just suddenly feels completely different than it did a minute ago. Even when you don't see anything strange happening, you can feel how the atmosphere changes, and at times gives the game a horror-inspired feeling. Some places just feel wrong in a way you can't explain, but you know damn well that some unholy business is going on here. You know that these damn woods shouldn't be whispering and remembering dark and tragic things, but they do. They are cursed, and all that's left is for you to find a shack in the woods with a book made out of human skin.
The book is bound in human flesh and inked in human blood.
You ride through these places in broad daylight, and there's something off about the shadows or the way the wildlife avoids the area. At night, those spots get even stranger. The fog gets too thick and the silence starts creeping you out. You can tell something happened there, and the game never explains it, but the land never forgets all the blood that was spilled.
It was the woods themselves. They're alive.
Evil dead. They got up on the wrong side of the grave.
You're out there in the dark, maybe after a long hunt or a slow ride back to camp, and you hear something carried in the wind. Then you see her, pale and heartbreaking, forever trapped in a loop of agony and pain.
Come home. He will too. I just know he will, Mother. I just know he will.
Moments like that feel like you stumbled across a rumor whispered in some saloon, except now you're seeing it with your own eyes. And then there's all the UFO stuff, which is a whole different flavor of creepy. You walk into some old shack expecting another random encounter, and suddenly the entire place lights up with this green glow, all the while you're surrounded by corpses that were clearly inspired by the Heaven's Gate event, which makes this place even more unsettling. It's the kind of thing you'd expect from an old VHS tape someone recorded over a dozen times, not a game set in 1899. And this interesting mix of genres makes these moments feel even stranger, like the Red Dead Redemption world is constantly brushing up against the Twilight Zone. What I love is how none of it breaks immersion. These creepy moments don't feel forced or even out of place. It blends into the landscape like the abandoned houses or the forgotten swamps. It feels like stories passed down by people who lived too far from town and knew the nights got long and the dark carried things no one wanted to talk about. The night cycle does impact the game a lot. Locations that feel normal during the day become threatening after dark. You start hearing things that make you stop and listen, trying to figure out if it's environmental design or something much more sinister. You're never quite sure if there's a threat around or if it's just the atmosphere playing with you. They just drop supernatural elements into the world and let players find them. You never know if an encounter with a stranger is going to be harmless or if you're about to get jumped by people. This paranoia mirrors the actual frontier, where trust was a luxury and everyone was potentially dangerous.
I think you better open up that register.
Just kill someone else in town instead. Fine, I'll open it. What a run! Help! Help! This is real bad.
What makes Red Dead 2's creepiness so great in my opinion is the commitment to mundane horror, not jump scares or monsters, just the slow realization that people do terrible things when they're isolated and desperate, that the frontier was full of violence and madness and nobody was coming to help. The game shows you families that turned on each other and communities that collapsed into brutality. People lost their humanity gradually, one choice at a time.
People don't forget. Nothing gets forgiven.
I feel like the game also understands that isolation is inherently unsettling. You can ride for long stretches without seeing another soul, just you, your horse, and the landscape. The longer you're alone, the more aware you become of how vulnerable you are. One wrong encounter and you're dead with nobody to help. There's something about the way Rockstar built this world that feels like no matter how much you explore, there are still secrets buried in the game and locations you haven't found. Red Dead Redemption has this reputation for being a big cinematic western with pretty sunsets and big shootouts, but every time I replay it, I'm reminded of how heavy the whole thing actually is. There's a darkness baked into it that hangs over the entire game. It just sits there under the surface waiting for you to notice. And the more time you spend in that world, the more you start to feel it creeping in around the edges.
Holy sweet mother of mercy. They burnt the place down, killed the men, burning most of them alive, and raped the women. Women folk then got their throats slit.
A lot of that comes from the way the game treats the West itself. It looks beautiful, but there's something lonely about it. The towns feel half abandoned, the people seem worn down, and even the open plains have this quiet emptiness that feels less like freedom and more like isolation. When you ride for long stretches with nothing but wind and dust around you, the world starts to feel tired, like it's reaching the end of something.
And if you won't manage it, you'll die. Only slowly.
John Marston fits right into that. People remember him as this tough outlaw with a dry sense of humor, but to me, he's one of the saddest characters ever put in a game. He's a man trying to rebuild his life while being dragged back into everything he tried to escape. That depressive mood hangs over every mission.
I had a daughter, but she died. Years before that, I rode in a gang. We robbed banks, trains, held people ransom. We killed people we didn't like.
I'm gonna give this life up to be a singer. Take the money and let me live.
No! Angela!
There's the sense that he's running on borrowed time. He talks like someone who's already accepted how the story ends. He just hasn't reached that point yet. Even the missions that seem simple end up carrying some kind of weight. You help strangers who turn out to be desperate, sick, obsessive, or dangerous. You run into people who can't let go of the past, or people who've already been crushed by the world around them. The stranger side quests really bring out the darker side of the game, because they show you all the people who didn't get a chance at redemption. They're stuck in their own loops and you're just passing through.
Then why would you remember me, friend? You've forgotten far more important people than me.
It's dark and incredibly violent, and this silence and loneliness can even get creepy at times, such as the fact that the hills hide cannibals, and there's even a side mission where you find the remains of people that were eaten alive.
She's gone. Who is?
My wife, she's gone.
Mexico is where the darkness really settles in. The optimism of the early chapters fades and everything feels harsher. The sky seems bigger, the land feels emptier, and the missions get more brutal. You can sense John losing whatever hope he had left.
Hey, gringo! ¿Hablas español?
No, sir.
Saludos, amigo. It's not smart to go wandering so far from home.
Now, I appreciate the welcome committee, but I'd hate to spoil a beautiful afternoon on such beautiful land.
I don't think it's nice you laughing.
The revolution you get pulled into is far from being heroic. It's messy, bloody, and full of people using each other to climb out of their own misery. It's one of the first times I remember a game showing a war in a way that felt somewhat realistic and deeper.
The whole place has been a hotbed for revolution since before the Spanish left. Now there's another local guy running around promising the peasants their freedom. Just like the last 2 or 3.
Even the humor in Red Dead Redemption has this edge to it. Characters crack jokes, but you can hear the bitterness underneath. People talk big, but they're usually just trying to survive. It gives the game this weird mix of charm and sadness that sticks with you. You feel like everyone is pretending things are better than they are.
Glass eye! It's a glass eye!
Stop with the tears and help me with Williamson's gang.
Or was that Canada? No, that was Canada. Guy here, not funny, but he's real nice.
And I want to tell you that if you don't produce a Gatling gun within the hour, you'll wish you'd been killed back there.
What I always come back to is how the game handles violence. It's slow, brutal, and heavy. When John shoots someone, it feels almost sickening because of how well the animations are done. I mean, people can bleed out, crawl away from you, or try to make a last stand. Even though you're usually just shooting nameless NPCs, it feels much more consequential and violent than shooting someone in a game like Call of Duty. There's nothing glamorous about it. It fits the tone of a man who doesn't want to kill anymore, but doesn't really have a choice and is forced to continue the circle of violence and the damnation of his soul.
Intruder! Take him!
You want more? I'm bleeding to death.
And then of course there's the ending. I don't need to spell it out, but it's one of the darkest turns any game has taken. Not because it's shocking or cruel, but because it feels inevitable. You spent the whole story trying to give John a second chance, and you realize too late that the world was never going to let him have one.
People don't forget. Nothing gets forgiven.
Red Dead Redemption feels like a love letter to the Western genre and a farewell to the Old West at the same time. It captures that fading era with a kind of honesty and respect that's rare in games.
I thought you were supposed to protect us, Marshal. You folk-eating men. You ain't nothing. You're just a man on a government payroll taking money that the rest of us have to pay for with our lives. What is wrong with this country?
There's no glamorizing or polishing it up. It feels rough and real, like a world heading towards its final chapter. It's a game that understands atmosphere better than almost anything else out there, and that's why it's so legendary. What also always strikes me is the silence. Modern games fill every second with noise, tutorials, voices calling out to you, but Red Dead lets you exist in quiet. You hear the creak of the saddle, the crackle of dry bushes as your horse passes through, or the distant call of some bird you never see. The wind rolls across the plains in this slow, warm way, almost like the world is breathing around you. There's something calming about it. You don't feel rushed. To me, Red Dead Redemption is remembered as this big western adventure, but when you really sit with it, the whole story is soaked in melancholy. It's a game about a dying era, dying dreams, and a man trying to outrun a past that's already caught up to him. It's rugged and violent, but underneath that is a story about regret, change, and the last breath of the Old West. It feels worn and lived in, like an old VHS tape that's been played too many times.
I'm here to capture or kill Bill Williamson.
He is perhaps the most dangerous man who ever lived.